The Congress would have people believe that this is an issue only, this is an election which is about issues, not about personalities. They want the focus to be as far away from personalities and as much on issues. Yet when the ads come out, the ads are only about personalities, and the ads take pot shots at Narendra Modi, their principal opponent. Is this good messaging? Joining us on the center stage face-off tonight, we've got three of the country's leading branding, corporate and marketing experts. Ad guru Alec Padamsee, veteran in this business for several decades, is joining us on this broadcast. We've got Santosh Desai with us. Also at this time is Harish Bijur from Bangalore. To give us a Congress perspective, Shobha Oza, spokesperson for the party, and Sudhanshu Mittal, representing the BJP tonight. Because what the ads are trying to do is also to get Rahul Gandhi to take up the space of the anti-corruption crusader. Given all the charges against the UPA too, can Rahul legitimately, on the basis not just of these claims but on the basis of the performance, his own and that of his party, appropriate that space? And I want to go across first to Harish Bijur, because as we see these ads being rolled out, people wonder who is in government. Is Modi the Prime Minister at this time, or is Rahul the leader of the opposition? Because the ads would make it seem as if here is Rahul the challenger taking on Modi the incumbent. What's your sense of this, Mr. Bijou?
Well, Rahul, there are words and there are images. I do not believe words. I would rather believe in the images. If you really look at the advertising that's hitting India today, it is clearly polarized between two personas. Never mind what possibly the Congress party says about it being a party versus a persona. I think it's boiling down to become a persona versus a persona. The center staging of Rahul Gandhi as the center point in all advertising visual imagery, I think, that says it all. And the language of saying, talking young versus rigid, flexible versus rigid.
No, it's not rigid, it's divisive.
I think,
it's not rigid, it's divisive.
One thing.
Jo torta nahi jorta hai. It's
Yeah,
not
sure.
It's not rigid, it's much
Sure.
more serious. No, but
Sure.
I want to bring in
Sure.
Santosh Desai. Mr. Desai, do you think this is a case of confused messaging? Because the Congress can legitimately seek to appropriate whatever space it wants. But party leaders say this is not an election about personalities, it's about issues. The ads are mostly about personalities. We've seen very little of the issues being looked at. What are you making of the Congress campaign that we've seen so far?
Yeah, I would say that it is confused. In fact, at several levels, I think this is confused. One is, like you pointed out, the fact that, this is the government, somebody in, that a government that has enjoyed 2 terms behaving as if it is in the opposition. That is one. The other is that, you have somebody who is a dynastic leader talking about, and forswearing the idea of individuals being important, which nothing moves in the Congress without the high command. And therefore, for the Congress to claim this is strange. Then again, to take on a plank about corruption. And the fact that you take on an outsider's challenger's role, which is what Rahul Gandhi has consistently somehow contrived to put himself in a position as, I think is ridiculous for somebody who is coming in at the end of 2 terms. So, to my mind, the idea, this Congress campaign is, to call it confused, I think is being a little kind to it.
You're using some very, very harsh words, and I want to listen also to Alec Padamsee, because Santosh Desai in his wisdom says that after 2 terms in power, you can't pretend that you're in the opposition. Mr. Desai, Mr. Alec Padamsee, what's your sense of the message that's being put out by the Congress? Is this a case of confused messaging?
I don't think it's all that confused. I think behind the whole thing, it is about personalities, and we live in a country
But that's
where
what the
we
Congress
worship
is
movie
denying.
stars.
They say it's about issues, not
No,
personalities.
they may have denied it. No, they will tell you that. They will tell you that. Of course, politicians are famous for doublespeak, but I believe that what they're trying to do is to project Modi as the contender who seems to be the person who's going to be Prime Minister. And here is a young David against a giant Goliath who has posters all over the place saying, I am a Hindu nationalist and things like that, and swamping the whole country with a lot of posters and hoardings and films and so on. I think one of the things is to put Rahul in the kind of this of saying that I am the man who will be honest. I've even fired my own party for the corruption bill and so on. And I am the new Congress, and I have recovered, if you like, from a kind of a hiatus that he had. And I think the strategy is not a bad one. We like to have a young man in charge. I agree that Modi has projected himself as a great, great administrator. But one of the problems about being a good administrator, how is that when you're chief minister, you're such a good administrator, 2,000 people are killed on the streets of Gujarat in 2002. That is a question he will have to answer sooner or later, but he avoids interviews. I'm glad Rahul did an interview.
Okay. You're getting ahead of us in this debate. You've raised several points. We'll get to them by and by as this debate unravels.
Okay.